There is a very specific kind of silence that only exists when you are standing in a Tuscan cow pasture at midnight. It is not the peaceful silence of a postcard. It is the heavy, judgmental silence of 20 cows wondering why a sweaty American is standing in their dinner. My phone was at 4%. My dignity was at 0. Far off in the distance, roughly where my dreams of a romantic vacation went to die, I could see the faint, mocking glow of Florence. But how did I get here? Just 3 hours ago, I was convinced I was the smartest traveler in Italy. It turns out, I was just the only one left on a ghost train. It all started with a vision. I imagined myself leaning against a train window, glass of Chianti in hand, watching the golden sun dip behind the rolling hills of Tuscany. Very under the Tuscan sun, very cinematic. The reality was a regional train that smelled like a combination of wet wool and old ham sandwiches. But I didn't care. I had my ticket, my backpack, and a sense of unearned confidence. I had been traveling for 2 weeks and felt like a local. I looked at the other passengers, tired commuters and noisy teenagers, and felt a smug sense of superiority. I knew exactly where I was going. Or so I thought. The train was rattling through the countryside, and the sky was turning a beautiful, bruised purple. It was perfect, until we pulled into a station that wasn't on my digital map. It was a tiny, flickering platform in the middle of nowhere called Chianti something. And suddenly, everyone started moving. Not just a few people. Everyone. It was a mass exodus of humanity, leaving me alone in carriage number 4. I watched through the window as the platform filled with people. They were talking rapidly in Italian, gesturing toward the front of the train. A normal person would have asked, "Why is everyone leaving?" But not me. I assumed they were all tourists who had reached their hotels. I thought, look at these amateurs getting off early. I actually leaned back and put my feet up on the empty seat across from me. I felt like I had the whole world to myself. The doors hissed shut with a definitive metallic thud. Then, silence. The station lights faded as the train began to roll forward again. But something felt wrong. The engine didn't have that deep rhythmic hum anymore. It felt light, almost hollow. We weren't accelerating, we were drifting, and then came the sound that I will hear in my nightmares. A massive mechanical clunk echoed through the floorboards. It felt like the train was being ripped in half because, well, it was. I didn't realize it yet, but my carriage had just been decoupled from the locomotive. I was no longer on a journey to Florence. I was on a multi-ton metal sled, headed for a dark siding. The flickering fluorescent lights overhead gave one final, pathetic buzz, and then died. Total, absolute darkness. I sat there in the pitch black, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. The train was still moving, but it was a slow, ghost-like creep. We were rolling backward now. I pressed my face against the glass, trying to see anything, but the Tuscan countryside had swallowed the world whole. No streetlights, no houses, just the black silhouettes of cypress trees passing by like funeral spectators. We finally came to a shivering halt. The silence that followed was heavy enough to feel. I was stuck in a dead carriage, in a graveyard for old trains, miles from the nearest town. I tried to pull the emergency handle, but it was locked tight. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I was trapped. What choice did I have? I could wait for morning and hope someone found me. Or I could find a way out of this metal coffin before I lost my mind. I found a manual override lever near the floor. I pulled it with everything I had, and the door groaned open just a few inches. Cold, night air rushed in, smelling of damp earth and manure. I squeezed through the gap and dropped. My dignity hit the dirt before my boots did. I landed in waist-high grass that felt like it was hiding 1,000 snakes. I looked around, waiting for my eyes to adjust. I expected to see a service road, maybe a maintenance shed, or even a fence. But there was nothing, just endless, rolling darkness. I pulled out my phone to check the GPS, but the screen flashed a bright red 1% warning before turning into a black brick. That was the moment the panic really transitioned into a weird, hysterical laughter. I was in a field. In Italy. With no phone, no map, and no clue. I started walking in the direction I thought the station was, but every step took me deeper into the tall grass. And then, I heard the first moo, a low, rumbling sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. I wasn't alone. I was in the middle of a massive, invisible herd of cows. For the next 4 hours, I became an expert in the geography of Tuscan mud. I walked through thorns that shredded my jeans and crossed 3 different streams that were definitely not on the brochure. Every time I saw a light in the distance, it turned out to be a distant star or a hallucination born of sheer exhaustion. I was terrified of wild boars, which I was convinced were stalking me from the shadows. Finally, I saw it. A real, flickering yellow light. I scrambled over a stone wall and found myself in the gravel driveway of a massive, ancient farmhouse. I must have looked like a bog monster. I knocked on the heavy wooden door, and an elderly man in a bathrobe opened it. He looked at me, then at my muddy shoes, then back at me. I tried to explain. Treno, boom, cowfield, Florence. He didn't speak a word of English, but he saw the desperation in my eyes. He sighed, stepped back into the house, and picked up a rotary phone. He didn't offer me wine. He didn't offer me a bed. He just pointed to the porch and said one word, taxi. The taxi ride back to Florence cost me €200 and the last shred of my self-respect. The driver spent the entire hour laughing into his hands every time he looked at me in the rearview mirror. I didn't care. I just wanted a shower and a bed that didn't smell like a barn. I finally rolled into the city at 3 in the morning looking like I had lost a fight with a lawnmower. So, what did we learn from my glorious disaster? The lesson is simple. If you're on an Italian train and literally every other person gets off, do not assume you are the smart one. Follow them. Ask questions. Don't let your ego drive you into a cow pasture. Travel isn't always about the breathtaking views and the hidden gems. Sometimes it is just about surviving the night without getting stepped on by a heifer. My expensive taxi ride was the price of a very important education. Thanks for sticking with me through the mud and the cows. If you have ever had a travel disaster that made you want to hide under your bed, tell me about it in the comments. It makes me feel much better about my own life choices. Don't forget to hit subscribe for more unfiltered, sweaty, and slightly stressful travel stories. Until next time, stay safe, stay hydrated, and for heaven's sake, get off the train.